earlier today, SummerSlam headed to Minneapolis for a 2-night event. Mr. Marceau, brother, how's it going? And what are your thoughts on the news?
I'm doing well. I'm pretty surprised. Like you said, I mean, 2 years out, it's pretty abnormal, I would say, to announce something 2 years in advance. Maybe this is their make well for kind of screwing them from WrestleMania. So in 2 years, we'll give you SummerSlam in 2 nights. So very interesting how far ahead they're booking this. And like you said, with the 2 nights, it's definitely something that they never have done with SummerSlam. So I'm interested. I guess we'll see what happens next year. Maybe they'll do another, maybe starting in 2025, the two nights. I don't know. Like, it just seems a little weird that they're booking it out in 2026. I don't know how they're mapping it out already, but like I said, I think it's more of a, hey, sorry, we didn't give you WrestleMania, so we'll give you a SummerSlam in 2 years.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong if you can remember. I don't know the last time they ever announced something this far in advance, aside from, like, the obvious SummerSlams in the last couple of years where I was just discussing this with you before we hit record here, but like back in, I don't know if they announced in 09, hey, we're going to do it for the next 7 years here at, the Kia Forum, or not the Kia Forum, whatever that, the
Staples Center.
The Staples Center to us. Yeah, it's the Crypto.com arena now, which is so fucking stupid. It's the Staples Center, forever will be to me. But I don't know if they announced in 09, hey, we're going to do it here indefinitely. I know they did for SummerSlam in 2014, 2015, they were like, hey, we're going to do it here through 2017, and then they tacked on an extra year in 2018. Beyond that, though, I don't know when they announced a singular standalone show this far in advance. We haven't even had SummerSlam this year, let alone next year. So I have a lot of questions here. I don't know what they're planning for next year. I don't know if that might be a Minneapolis thing, or they have like maybe that date already booked for 2025, like that weekend already booked for, I don't know, a tour or something. I have no idea how that stuff works. I mean, you would know better than I would. But maybe that's why it could be a WWE thing where they already have their eyes in a certain city for next year. Maybe it's an international show, that's why. Don't know. It's going to be Saturday, August 1st, Sunday, August 2nd. First 2-night SummerSlam ever at the US Bank Stadium. That would have been the same stadium they would have done Mania at, right?
Yeah, it's the same stadium they would have done Mania at.
So, I mean, I think a couple things here. I think this has got to, maybe not necessarily confirm, but like, why SummerSlam? I mean, we talked about it a week or two ago when they announced Vegas for Mania for next year. And that's WrestleMania 41 coming up. And that one they announced really, really late, surprisingly. That's probably the latest they've ever announced Mania, at least in recent memory. But they have Mania 42, they have Mania 43, both of which, or at least Mania 42, I'm sorry, 43 would be in 3 years in 2027. They have the Mania in 2026, Mania 42 open, at least as of right now. You would think, and we discussed a few weeks ago, okay, Vegas will get it first. They, they outbidded WWE, or they outbidded Minneapolis WWE for summer or for Mania, whatever. And then, okay, we'll just give you Mania in 2026 instead. They just jumped ahead and were like, all right, we'll give you a 2-night event. It just won't be WrestleMania. It'll be SummerSlam, which the 2-night thing, I honestly think it's more so to appease the city and the officials and shit like that, because they wanted Mania, which brings in a lot of people. SummerSlam will be popular, don't get me wrong, but it's not the same thing as WrestleMania. Maybe they think that it's similar or it's equivalent. It really isn't. The amount of events they do, maybe they will up it by 2026. It's just not remotely the same thing. So I kind of feel like Minneapolis got fucking gypped here. They've been looking for a Mania for at least the last decade. And SummerSlam's cool, 2 nights and whatever, but they're getting SummerSlam. So, like I was going to say, to me, doesn't really necessarily confirm, but does point towards someone else getting Mania in 42. Obviously not Minneapolis, but maybe the Saudi Arabia thing they were discussing. They wanted either the Rumble or Mania that year, as early as 2026 or 2027. That might be what's going on here.
Yeah, I mean, I hope not. I mean, I don't think Saudi should get WrestleMania. Maybe London. I'm down with London before I would say Saudi Arabia when it comes to that aspect. But just reading the press release here, like, it looks like a woman, the president and CEO of Minnesota Sports, commented and said, we'll make the summertime wrestling extravaganza accessible for fans of all ages through a variety of festivals and ancillary events in the 20 cities, and affordable tickets to the main events at US Bank Stadium for SummerSlam for all. So I don't know if maybe that was another thing. Like, obviously WrestleMania is a little bit more expensive, so maybe SummerSlam's more of an affordable thing for people in the area. I mean, it seemed like something that was highlighted in a comment. So they said they're thrilled to have SummerSlam in Minneapolis. So who knows? I mean, I'm excited. I think they should have got a big show, especially with the new stadium. So maybe they'll finally start taking SummerSlam as like the WrestleMania of the summer more seriously with a 2-night event. Maybe starting that year or maybe next year as like a yearly thing, but we'll see.
That's funny that they highlight the word affordable specifically because it's been a lot of talk lately with WWE gouging the prices for some of these shows. And again, if people are willing to pay it, then they are going to do it. Like, you and I look at those prices that they seemingly charge for Backlash because they announced it as the highest paid arena show in WWE history. and it's in Paris, and they had to, whatever. It was a very popular show and whatnot. Ended up being a great show. But that does not really bode well for other markets and other fans as far as they're going to be charging similar prices going forward. We didn't really talk about that a couple weeks ago. But do you think that's going to carry over into the States at some point? I don't know what they're charging for SummerSlam, but do you think that might become a problem at some point where they're going to start charging an arm and a leg for these shows? As I feel like they used to, and then they went down. I haven't really followed it too closely. Obviously, prices have gone up with like inflation and shit like that, but I just feel like this might become a problem going forward. It seems like, I don't know, according to that quote that you just read off, they might be cracking down on that by August of 2026. Oh, great, like 2.5 years. But is that a worry for you, too, that they might be upping the prices for this stuff going forward now that the demand is there with the product being better and hotter?
I mean, I think that's with anything, though. Like any kind of entertainment or sport at this point, I think pricing is just as high as it's ever been, obviously. I'm not sure exactly. I think a lot of these places also just have outpriced themselves. Like you said, I don't know if it's just inflation or what's going on, but, I mean, it's pretty expensive to go to any sporting event at this point. Just looking at the SummerSlam map this year, I mean, they have tickets as low as $83, and it starts kind of jumping up from there. But, I mean, I think it's going to get to a point that it's eventually too much, but I think, like you said, if they're charging it, people are paying it, they'll keep doing it. With the international shows, I think it's a little bit different because they're not pulling from, like, the same pool of people. So I guess they also don't go there that often, so I think people are more willing to pay, like, a higher premium.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, I think if you keep going in the States and the prices keep going up and up and up, I mean, I think eventually people will be like, yeah, it's not worth it. But, like I said, people keep going, so I think that's one of those things, like, I mean, how many people go to the Taylor Swift shows and could only imagine how expensive the tickets are. She goes to the same city like 2 or 3 nights in a row, sells it every night. Prices are so expensive and people are still going. So, I don't know. I mean, I guess you think eventually it would fall off, but maybe people are just willing to spend the money. And like I said, it might eventually catch them in the back end, but right now they're just bathing in money, so they don't really care.
The other aspect of this is the fact that it's 2 nights. Like you said, they might go 2 nights starting next year, and this is just the second continuation of that. We know for a fact, unless they change it, which I don't know if you can at this point. I mean, I guess you could make it 2 nights this year. They already put tickets on sale for SummerSlam. If they want to expand it to 2 nights, I guess they could. We're a couple months out, and they could just put tickets on sale for a second day. I don't think they will. It's in Cleveland. It's a bit different than Minneapolis as far as the market and the amount of people they would probably get in that building for that show. I don't think they would make it 2 years or 2 nights this year. Probably next year, depending on where they go. But what are your thoughts on that? Because I'm kind of indifferent on it personally.
I mean, I think it all really depends on how the product is. I think that's a safe, easy answer for you, but I think that's the most logical answer. I mean, the product's ice cold and they have 2 nights. I don't know how well that would sell, but if the product's hot and you have interesting things going on, then 2 nights could sell. So I think it really depends on the product. And I mean, they're flying high right now and everything's going well, but I mean, eventually it always goes down eventually. So we'll see. But I think, like I said, it all depends on the product. I mean, if the product's white hot, you can do 3 nights. I mean, it all depends on what's going on, but I think eventually 2 nights. It's one of those things, they offer you 2 nights, and eventually interest falls off, and then you go back to 1 night. So we'll see, but I mean, I think I like the 1 night specifically for most shows, and then WrestleMania's 2 nights. I mean, makes sense, the big show. I think you can build up enough to get 2 nights out of it, and it's like you're not sitting through 5 hours in 1 night. You kind of spread it over time, but I think we'll see what happens with SummerSlam. I would prefer 1 night, but I also do understand if you're going, like, if we're traveling to a destination or a different place, like, I think I would rather stay for 2 nights than 1 night, or go for a longer time. So I get that aspect as well. Like, if you're going to go to Minneapolis, you might as well go for 2 nights of a show than just 1 night if you're spending all that time anyway. So I do get that as well.
They could do the WrestleMania formula where they do SmackDown, which I think they confirmed. USA did, NBC or whoever. I think they confirmed that it's going to be staying on Fridays in the fall. And then I would think, I'm pretty sure Raw's staying on Mondays. I think that was also confirmed or maybe just speculated on Netflix by that point. So you could just follow the WrestleMania formula by having, SmackDown in the same building on Friday, not in the arena, or not in that stadium, obviously, but a nearby arena. Probably the same arena that they did TLC. I'm looking at the press release, and they said they haven't been there for a PLE since TLC 2019, the amazing show that spawned Roman Reigns and Baron Corbin in a TLC match. Man, the product was so bad back then. So, I mean, I guess you could do SmackDown there, Raw there on Monday, make it worthwhile for people. That does make sense. I mean, from a business standpoint, like you said, if the business is hot still by 2.5 years from now, and that's a real risk, or at least close to being as hot as it is right now business-wise, then I guess money-wise it would make sense. Financially, it is logical. That being said, though, I don't know, just as far as preference goes, the big thing with Mania, making that 2 nights, which I think was always skeptical about either. I mean, I'm sure if you go back 5 years or so and we talked about it then, or if I was asked about it, I definitely would have told you I don't like the idea of Mania being 2 nights because I think it's more special as one. Nowadays, I can't even remember them going back. I can't even fathom the idea of them going back to 1 night. I just think 2 nights works a lot better. But SummerSlam is not WrestleMania. So I saw some people saying, my buddy Rick, actually, who he said on Twitter earlier today, would kind of avoid the issue of, Trish Stratus and Becky getting bumped off the SummerSlam card. Yeah, I guess, but I don't know. If it's not... SummerSlam really... Like, Mania as a 2-night thing makes sense, because it's a spectacle. SummerSlam just really hasn't been that. I honestly can't remember the last, truly great SummerSlam show. We've gotten some good ones in recent years. We've been to a few of them. They've been some good shows. They haven't been that great to warrant 2 days. I mean, they've gone over 3 hours, but they haven't been 7 hours like Mania used to be. I guess that's kind of my point. If they have a deep enough roster by mid-2026 where they can do that, I guess. But with Mania, you get the long entrances, the video packages. Are you really going to do that for SummerSlam? I just don't see them going out of their way. I just don't think, I guess my point is here, my long diatribe, I don't see them making SummerSlam more special just because it's 2 nights. Would you agree with that, or do you think that this will make SummerSlam better in the long run?
I mean, I think you would have to. Like I said, I think you would have to make it seem like a WrestleMania of the summer, like they always say, like the biggest event of the summer. I feel like you kind of would have to go with that tagline and kind of go all the way with it. I mean, I think if they're going to do it like WrestleMania, it should all, like you said, they should do the meet and greets and all that stuff the week leading into it and stuff like that. They should do a SummerSlam Access and kind of make it like the talk of the town for the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
I think the last few years when we went to Detroit and Nashville, I mean, Friday night, both times, the SmackDown wasn't even in the city, so it's oh, we're here. Okay, SmackDown's not here, so we kind of twist our thumbs for a night, which isn't always that bad, but it would be nice to go to SmackDown before and other things to go to kind of ramp it up to make it seem like a bigger thing. I think if you're going to do 2 nights, you might as well just do everything. So I think that's the right approach. I mean, that's how I think. And if you're going to do it, you might as well go all the way. But we'll see what happens.
When you say go all the way, that includes making maybe the Rumble 2 nights? And I don't know about Survivor Series, but...
No, I wouldn't make Rumble 2 nights.
Do you think that this could start that trend, though? I mean, that was always the talk with Mania, where it's if we got 2 nights for this, then they can make 2 nights for everything else. Not for every pay-per-view, that'd be fucking ridiculous. But, that hasn't happened. We've had 2-night Manias now for 4 years. And we're only now getting our first 2-night SummerSlam. And I got a question back in January. I don't like the idea. I honestly think it would make more sense to almost make the Rumble 2 nights because you could have 1 Rumble on one night and 1 Rumble on the other. I don't like the idea. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying if you were going to make any other Big 4 pay-per-view 2 nights, that one would almost make more sense because the Rumbles are an hour each, hour plus each. Separate them up by night. That would make more sense to me. Making SummerSlam 2 nights just doesn't make a whole lot of sense because it's not, I don't know. I mean, it's a special show, but it's not Mania. So do you think, I know you don't want to see it, but do you fear that could be next?
I hope not. That sounds honestly, it sounds really bad. I mean,
that's a lot of wrestling.
I understand what you're saying, and I totally get it. Like, yeah, WrestleMania or Royal Rumble is long. Like, you have the 2-hour Rumbles. You have, like, 2 other matches on the show, so it usually goes around 3 hours. But, I don't know, 2 nights of Royal Rumble doesn't seem right to me. I mean, I'm kind of out on that, because it's like, I mean, most of the people are in the Royal Rumble matches anyways. I think that's, like so what else you can do? Like, other title matches, and these people won't be in the Rumble, so I don't think you have enough star power to do that, but, I mean, I guess I wouldn't do it, though.
No, that's a good point, though. I think the Rumble for the last few years has been like a 5-match card. I mean, I think it was. I remember watching the show like a million times because I love that show. Royal Rumble 2011, when you went like 13, 14 years ago at this point, was also like a 4-match show. I mean, that was the 40-man Rumble. That wasn't, 2 different Rumbles, but it was basically 2 Rumbles in one. And they didn't really have a whole lot of other matches on the show. Same thing with this year. It was a longer show because the 2 Rumbles. But I feel like it's somewhere in the middle where it's a longer show, but it's not long enough to make it 2 days. Because you're right, because what am I going to have fucking, I don't know, Akira Tozawa and Otis on the undercard? I mean, come on. Just because it is 2 nights doesn't mean you have to fill it out for 2 nights. Even though you have the Rumbles to do it, I don't really like that idea. Same thing with Money in the Bank. That's even worse, I think, because the Money in the Bank matches are not an hour each. The Rumbles I can almost see. The Money in the Bank matches are like 20 minutes, 30 minutes max. That does not need to be a 2-night show. I hope it stops here. I don't even like SummerSlam going 2 nights personally, but financially I understand why it makes sense. The Rumble, I'm not as sold on. And the difference with the Rumble, too, we talk about financially. Have they done that in a stadium for the last couple of years? I'm trying to think. I don't think so, right? I mean, they did it in Tampa, a baseball park this year. It was in San Antonio last year, but it was in they did Mania.
It was at the Alamo Dome.
The Alamo Dome. Okay, that's a big dome, but I mean they really didn't market those shows as tourist attractions, right? So I don't even know if a 2-night Mania would work unless they were to do it in a big ass stadium, which I guess you could, but I don't really like that idea.
I mean, you could do with the Rumble, but like I said, I'm kind of out on that idea.
Yeah, no thanks.